Hey everybody, welcome back to Young Engineers of Today. Hey Matteo. So today we're going to continue with HTML, no surprise there. I don't think we're going to be able to get into any CSS because we're just the amount of time we're going to spend with all this stuff. But we are going to basically get probably through this entire lesson, and then we'll get started on Inkscape more than likely next week. Big whoop. Yeah, I know, right? Um, but yeah, so today we're going to spend a little bit of time sort of making the pages look better, nicer, do more with them, more interesting stuff. So what exactly does that entail? Well, linking in pictures. That's what that entails. So we're going to talk about how to hot link pictures, how to add links to other web pages, and just some other stuff. So when used correctly, pictures add to a website's visual appeal and can help illustrate ideas that you want to convey. You can potentially think of your website like a magazine in that sense rather than, like a book. And it's important to note that this is when used correctly. This is very much a caveat. I showed this to my middle schoolers as an illustration. I'll show it to you guys too. I know this is before your time really, but in like the mid to late 90s, when people were sort of starting to realize that, hey, they too could have a website. You started getting hosting sites like AngelFire and GeoCities and stuff like that that just started to pop up everywhere. And everybody had their website that was part of some web ring, and it was all relevant to the stuff that they were interested in, and blah 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 blah. Like, you ever watched like an episode of the original X-Files, you'll see a prime example of these really old websites. Um, Another prime example is the Space Jam website for the movie Space Jam, which still exists today. It's a relic. It is an artifact of a time gone past. Let me show you this thing. It's, good Lord. It's a thing. This is what they used to look like. Because this used to be like the pinnacle of web design. Make it better than just like a flat color, put a tiled picture in the background. The fact that these pictures were in the middle, that was like the height of style, like the fact that you could do this with a website made it look super nice. If we go and click on one of these links, we'll get like some ugly framing along the top and the side, and the frames were like a big deal too because it meant that you could scale the website to different resolutions. Uh, resolution Resolutions were not very big at the time. You didn't get very high numbers. You got like maybe 800 by 600, which meant that space was at a premium. So you'd have a frame so that people could still navigate to different parts of the website, and the rest of the page would resize itself in order to fit, you know, on their screen, which was a big deal. So like if we were to go to, I don't know, Jam Central, you made it, Jam Central Station, the central depository for all things Space Jam. Look at this red text. Look at how horrible that is. Why? But see, you couldn't have black text on this. You couldn't have white text on this. Blue text would be hard to read. Green text would be hard on the eyes. Red text is too, but at least you can read it against the black and white background. All of these are different links. We can go to Jump Station, and you can see cool links and hijinks because, it was the 90s, and so everything had to be, look at this. What is this? What is this background? Look at the fact that the links is, well, it was blinking for a second there. It probably was just reload. Nope, nope, it's an actual GIF. It's an actual GIF. But here you can go to the NBA homepage, the NCAA homepage, for men's or women's. You can go to the Journal of Basketball Studies, Basketball Around the World, animation links more on the making of Space Jam. Why don't we go to Planet B-Ball? And we'll look at the player bios. Look at that green background. Oh, we got Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Michael Jordan. Or no, that's Charles Barkley. Jeez. What's wrong with me? Um, just this is an example of pictures not being used properly. Then again, um, this was a this was like the best you could do at the time, you know? That's not Larry Bird. What's wrong with me? Patrick Ewing. I'm terrible. I'm terrible at this. Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. Anyway, there. I teach engineering. Um, let's just go ahead and close that out. Boop. Modern websites, they have a lot more tools at their disposal, so they tend to look a lot more pleasing to the eye because there have been studies, people have spent time sort of refining the art of designing websites. On top of that, um, there's recently there's been sort of a less is more kind of approach to websites as well. So you'll find that like the even though there are a lot more tools at one's disposal in order to create a website, they tend to be used more sparingly, more tactfully, or strategically. Um, so web design nowadays is a lot different from how it used to be. Artfully, thank you. So pictures linked with image tags can help break up large blocks of text that you may have or complement the writing for greater effect. If you have a lot of text on a page, you can use a picture and sort of like an inline picture or something like that in order to bring a little bit of context to what you're talking about and to make things easier to read, to give the mind a break. You can use it to add impact to the writing that you have, things like that. Give an image in the reader's head that can then be used throughout the rest of it. And thankfully, adding pictures to your web page is pretty simple. That's the actual entire code to add a picture, the entire line to add a picture to your web page. But what does it mean? Well, first of all, it's an unpaired tag. That is to say, there is no closing tag. As soon as you type that closing bracket, the tag is completed. You don't need like an image tag with a forward slash or anything like that. Like none of that business. It's unpaired. It opens, it closes, it's done. The first word, img, well, it's short for image. It declares this tag as an image tag. Now, it's entirely lowercase, like most HTML tags are going to be. On top of that, we have a space, and then we have src, which is short for source. So image, source. So far, so good, right? We're telling the browser that it's an image tag, and then we're telling it, hey, here comes the link, basically the address of the picture that I want you to pull. Like, get ready. So image source equals sign, and then the actual, image source in quotes. So we have to tell the browser where the source is. And that's done with an equal sign and then a URL within double quotes. Now keep in mind that there's no space here. There's only one space in this entire tag here, and that's in between image and source. There's just one space right there. Hey, I did it. It only took me forever. But that doesn't look horrible. So there's only one space there. No spaces here. None back here. Just one space right there. So if yours is like freaking out and it's like, oh, my image tag isn't working or something like that, maybe you take a look at that. So this is all well and good. I mean, that's pretty straightforward, but what kind of URL do you need in order to, for your browser to pull it up properly? If you enter in something weird, you get this ugly missing picture icon. which you guys probably haven't seen a whole lot of. You might have seen it a couple of times, but this used to be a big thing back in the 56K days. Sometimes the site would take too long to load, and so it would just reject your connection. um, Sometimes, because you were using a phone modem, somebody would call your house, and your one phone line would get tied up, and you'd get dropped off the internet. Sometimes, your computer would just not have enough memory to load everything, and so it would just abort, and you were left with a bunch of pictures, or a bunch of broken pictures. Sometimes, whatever, any number of reasons, you would get like broken picture links everywhere. For us, Google is the easiest way to get images for simple web pages, and right now, to get used to including image tags. Before we begin, though, there are a couple things I want to go over. Image rights are very, 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 very important. Do not take an image copyrighted by someone else, especially if your site is for profit. Like if you have a site for your company, or you have a site that makes money off of ad revenue from people visiting your site, whatever the case may be, if your site is specifically engineered to make you or your company money, do not put up an image that's copyrighted. Okay, Sam. Well, I'm recording it right now, so we can get it up on YouTube in case you missed like a big chunk of it or something like that. But thank you for letting me know. Now I don't think you're gonna you just hate me and you're gonna run away. But yeah, especially if your site is for profit, don't do it anyway. Like even if it's just like your own personal site, because it's poor form. Best case scenario, you'll get an email from somebody being like, "Hey, I own that picture. Can you please take it down?" Worst case scenario, you might get like a nasty letter from a lawyer. So just avoid it. On top of that, some sites disallow hot linking, which is providing the direct URL for an image to load on another page. They don't want you to, so images have a URL. They have a location that they exist on the internet. And that is separate from the location of the page that image resides on. So you might have a page that has a whole bunch of different pictures on it, and that page is at a certain location, and those images are at a different location. And they might also all be from like a separate website, that kind of thing. So some sites don't want you to use their pictures on your site. And the way they do that is they prevent hot linking. So if you go to their image and just load the image up on a separate tab and then copy the URL and put it on your website, if somebody wants to go, if somebody looks at your website, they might just get instead of the image you want, just another image that says hey, bad, no hot linking. And the way you'd have to get around that is be like, hey, here's where you can find the image that I'm talking about, and you would link to the page that holds their image because they're okay with that. But you cannot link to the image directly. So some websites will do that. You might just want to make sure that the website that you're using doesn't disallow hot linking. Whenever you're in doubt, though, just use open source art, stock photos, clip art, new licensed stuff, things like that. That's always a safe bet. You can ensure that you're not going to run into an issue where oh, hey, I just got a cease and desist letter because my website has a copyrighted picture on it, or a takedown notice or something like that. That would be bad. It's worst case scenario, but that'd be super bad. So just when in doubt, use open source art. If you know you can use the picture, excellent. If you're not sure, but you know for a fact that it's not copyrighted, but it's on an artist's photography website or something like that, or an art website or something, send them an email and be like, hey, I'm using this for my website. Do you mind if I use your image? Most of the time people will be like, yeah, okay, sure, whatever, that's cool. Sometimes they won't, in which case you say, okay, thanks for your time, move on to somebody else. Unfortunately, you can't use that picture. Now, with that all out of the way, let's search for a picture. I did Earthbound in my middle school class, Ness from Earthbound, so we're gonna do Chrono Trigger. Let's do Chrono Trigger. Excellent, excellent, excellent game. Let's find an image that we like. I like this one. It's an image of all the characters. So if we see what I did here is I clicked on the image, gave me the larger view. I can see that it's a 750 by 380 image. So it's not, incredibly large. It's a good size. It's a size that we can use. Also, notice that Google has a reminder down here, images may be subject to copyright. That's kind of like they're covering their own butts kind of a thing. But it's a good reminder for you to make sure that, like, hey, don't use copyrighted stuff. So yes, there's just a couple of things to keep note of. Take note of the size of the image. Make sure it's not going to be just absurdly large. You guys don't have to use the same image. You can use whatever image you want. I'm going to use Chrono Trigger because I like it. And also just, take note of the fact that images are subject to copyright. So there we go. I clicked on View Image here once I was satisfied with my selection. It brought it up in another window. Here's our image. Here is the link to the image. So at thebuzzerpodcast.files.wordpress.com/2013/04/chronotrigger101.png. There you go. I want to use this for my site. So I'm gonna open up a new HTML file, a new plain text file. Oh, many, many times. How do you know if it's copyrighted? A lot of times there'll be like a watermark there, or if it's, like a company logo, that kind of a thing, that'll be copyrighted. That's fantastic, by the way. I've never seen that before. But yeah, I've beaten Chrono Trigger probably more times than I care to count, especially with New Game Plus. Super Nintendo one and the DS one. I never owned a PlayStation, so I never got to be able to play the PlayStation port. That's my deep dark secret. Anyway, yeah, it's a good game. It's a really good game, especially once you get to Antiquity. That is definitely my favorite part of the game is Antiquity. The Ocean Palace and Zeal and all that. It's worth it going through all of prehistory and having to deal with all that in order to be able to get to there. Anyway, so let's go ahead and I'm going to create a new one. You can continue using your original HTML file if you'd like, or you can use a new one as well. I'm not going to be too picky about that. Head, title, pictures, and things. Got people dropping like flies out of here. Okay, so remember our image tag is image src equals, and then in quotes, our actual image source. I'm actually going to put some stuff up here. Hi, my name is Chrono. Welcome. No. Hello and welcome to my website. Here, have a picture. Lol. Just so we know that it's actually my website. I know, I am the greatest wordsmith of our generation. But yes, so here's the image tag, image source, and then the location in double quotes. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to copy paste this image location from the address bar into the double quotes here. We'll hit save, save it as an HTML file. We'll call it pictures.html. Okay. So now if we open it up in Chrome, hello and welcome to my website. Here I have a picture, lol. And here's the picture. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. And we've got Isla and Frog and Luca and Chrono and Marl and Robo and Megas all just hanging out here. Also, sorry for any potential spoilers. But yeah, that's how you add a picture. Pretty simple, right? Like, there's not a whole lot to it. It's important to note, too, that you can also use images on your own computer. Just use the location of your own image, basically the one on your computer between the quotes, instead of a web URL. So you would actually use the computer location. So as you can see here, c:/user/your username/desktop/screenshots, blah, 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 blah. So, you know, that's possible as well. However, there's a flaw with this technique. It's really only good for testing out because other people aren't going to be able to view that image because they don't have that image on their computer. That's the whole point of them going to this website to view the images because they don't have that image on their computer. They can just look at it on the computer if they have it. But the location of the image is pointing to a spot on their computer. When they visit, their computer is going to go image source, okay, oh, it's on my computer. Okay, it's on me. All right, c:/user/your username/desktop/screenshots/ here's the image. I don't have that username. I don't have that image at this location. This location doesn't even exist. This image doesn't exist. And guess what you get? You get that. You get that broken picture. So pointing to images that are stored on your computer, like I said, is really only useful for testing, like just looking over a website on your computer before you release it to the general public and being like, do I like how this looks? Yeah, I like how this looks. And then you can upload the page and all of your images to your host and all that stuff, and then it'll work. But until that point, it don't. So with images, our web page is another part of the way towards being considered complete. However, there's one big thing about web pages, one big, super duper big thing that we haven't gone over yet. Anyone guess what that might be? Formatting. Okay, I don't know if we're going to be able to really touch CSS today or at all because we're going to start on Inkscape. And my middle school class, it took me the entire presentation to get through this, or the entire class to get through the presentation, and it still was a mite bit too fast. Well, links. We haven't actually gone over links yet. How to create links. Versatility of websites comes from its ability to organize information in discrete or separate websites. Discrete ETE means separate. Discrete EET means like quiet or secretive or hard to notice. So yay, English language for similar sounding but totally different meaning things. What is... Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Anyway, yes, so the internet would be a whole lot more boring and hard to read if it was all contained in one long page. Like, can you just imagine a page that contains the entire internet on it? Just one page. One page. Finding anything that you want on that page. trying to read anything, because as soon as, I'm sure you guys can at least have some idea, some imagination about how much gets added to the internet each day. New material gets added to the internet each day. Now imagine it was all on one page. So that is everybody on the planet is editing and adding to this page, this one page. It would be impossible to read. Even if you could find the stuff you were looking for, it'd be just moving, juking around so much, it'd be impossible to read. There would be no way you could read it. So let's mess around with the link tag. The link tag is a paired tag, and as such is incomplete without the closing A. Now, it's a little strange because the opening tag is so big and the closing one is so small, but it's not so bad. Let's take a look at what everything is. Interestingly, the A doesn't really do anything but act as a placeholder for the rest of the tag. So the href is really the important part, but the A is there. It's also necessary so that the href has a place to go. I like to think of it like the anchor for the rest of it. So it's sort of like a generic kind of double tag kind of a thing. And then the href is there for telling the browser that it's actually a link and telling the browser where that link goes. So the href, or reference part of the tag, is really what does most of the work here. So there you go. Notice that the source part of the image tag, note that like the source part of the image tag, excuse me, it is initialized with an equal sign, any information within quotes. So it's formatted pretty much exactly the same way as the source part of the image tag. You just got href equals double quote, blah, 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 closing double quote. And there's no space there. There's a space between A and href, just like on the image tag, but no space anywhere else. There's a space in between, but much like with an image tag, you have some flexibility with what you place inside the double quotes here. In this example, we've used an absolute address, or a complete address like you'd enter into your address bar. Note that you would need the HTTP : / if it is absolute. So for a thing to link, let's go ahead and let's link Smooth McGroove's wonderful a cappella renditions. Bam. So now we got our link, right? Now let's set up, or we got our address, excuse me. Now let's set up our link here. Let's go A href equals quote, quote, boom, and we'll say here is my link, and then we'll do the closing A. So again, this is the structure of a link. In fact, we could have nothing in here and it still kind of work, but the link wouldn't actually appear just because there's no text to turn into a link. So we have some text here. And inside of the double quotes here, I'm going to paste the YouTube link. Bam. Hit save. Reload my page. Bam. Here is my link. Notice how it's just kind of slapped to the side over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap it in paragraph tags so that it looks better. Here is my link. I click on it, and I get taken to an ad. However, here's my YouTube video. Not mine, obviously, but the one I wanted to link. Plus, it's just so pleasant. How could you say no to that? Anyway, yes, that is how you add links. Oh, nice. Yeah, so you embedded a YouTube video. That's totally doable as well. Especially with Google Sites, because they have the script in order to be able to embed YouTube videos. Basically, yes, the stuff in between the opening and closing tag, here is my link. That is the text that is going to appear for your link. That's what we've done here. Changing the text to something else will change the link text accordingly. Now, there are alternative versions of links. I'm sorry for the pun. But the link tag is very versatile. And you have the ability to link a few different things besides absolute addresses. So we can take a look at what those other things are. Because, you know, alternative links. Anyway, for instance, you're building a website and you want to link to one of your other pages. You can totally do that. Let's see here. Let's go, let's just copy paste this because I'm lazy. And let's say here is my home page. And we'll link it instead of this whole long thing. Let's just say index2.html because that's the index page I created with you guys, you know, earlier this week and last week. Notice how it's just index2.html. It's in the same location as where my pictures file is. Here's my link. Here's my home page. I click on that, and you'll see that this is actually the updated homepage that I think it was Caleb that you gave me. It wasn't quite working like 100%, but you know, so as it goes. At any rate, it's linked to something else that's on my desktop because relative links will keep the same beginning and then they'll append the provided information to the end. So that way you can link to like different stuff on your website. Okay, it was you. All right. Another thing you can do is you can have the mail to link so that you can have people email you, because who doesn't want that? Nobody. That's who. Anyway, it functions, it's structured just exactly the same, except it has the keyword mail to, which is why it's a mail to link. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. And what it'll do is it'll launch a user's default mail program and then automatically create a new email with your address in the to field. So just in case you're starting up like a company website or something like that and you have a company email, and when I say company, it doesn't necessarily mean like, you know, like it's 100 people. It could just be like you or something like that, and you start trying to start up a business. And you can start up a business website, have a business email. They can click on the link and they can email your business, and you can handle all that business. Business. Haha, business. So that's a few different things you can do with linking. Now, as you probably noticed while you're going on the internet, surfing the interwebs, that many times links aren't actually text but pictures or combinations of the two, pictures and text, and you can click on either the picture and the text or the text and you can be taken to where you want to go. That's pretty easy to do as well. You just have to surround an image tag with a link tag. That's really all it is. We just take the image tag that we know how to do, and we take the link tag that we know how to do, and we just stick the link tag around the image tag. Bam. Simple as. So let's see that in action. And I'm actually going to do this with copy paste because, hey, I'm lazy. So we'll take our link, we'll copy it, we'll paste it. So that's what we're going to get linked to instead of the text in here. So see how we've got the paragraph tag, how we've got our link tag. We're going to take our image tag and we're going to copy and paste it in between the opening and closing on the link tag. Boom. So now we've got paragraph tag, link tag, and the big image tag taken up the middle. So let's hit save. We'll reload the page. We notice we got a second image here. If I mouse over it, I've got the link cursor. I can click on it, and I get taken to, once again, the same thing. Bam. Just ad filled in all its glory. Paladins. Just, oops. By the way, handy things to know with a lot of web browsers, certainly Chrome. Control W will close a tab. If you didn't mean to close it, you can hit Control Shift and T and reopen it, the last tab that you closed. So there you go. So now we've gone over links and pictures and how to make pictures into links and the different kinds of links and important things to know when linking pictures and making pictures links. So now Let's take a look at tables. I know, complete left turn from what we've been doing before. But hey, it's good to know. So tables are another inherent feature of HTML. Tables are excellent for organizing data into something effective and readable, but you already knew that if you've already used a table before ever. And it doesn't even have to be an HTML table. It can just be a regular table on graph paper or something like that. Or there's a table in a book, and it's organized into columns and rows and blah 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 blah. We already knew that it was effective at organizing data. So how exactly do tables work? Well, tables are kind of like lists, but more. They're like lists, but more. They've got a tag pair, which denotes their beginning and end, just like lists do. They're organized a lot like how lists are, but then there's just more to it. So let's take a moment to look at that. So let's see here. In my example here, I'm going to create just a simple 3x3 table, because no table worth its salt is smaller than 3x3. So just like before, we've got our opening and closing tags on table. So far, so good. Nothing new here. I muted myself accidentally. We got to denote the beginning and end of table. Nothing new here. Now, tables are organized in an interesting way. They're organized first by rows and then by cells in those rows. So let's take a second to look at that. Here's our table on the left-hand side. Here's the HTML that made that table on the right-hand side. How? Well, let's take a look. As we know, the opening and closing table tags determine when the table begins and ends. Then we've got these TR tags, which are short for table row. Remember how I said that they're organized by rows and then by cells in the row? So the next level down is going to be TR for table row. Bam. Where a TR begins and ends denotes where a row begins and ends. And as you can see, I've highlighted the middle TR pair, and I've also highlighted the middle row over here, because this row up here is technically also a part of the table. I just gave it the beginning structure, so it was easier to read. You could tell what each row or column represented. So TR denotes the beginning and end of a row. Then we've got the TD tags, which are short for table data. And the table data tags denote what should go into each individual table cell. Each table data is a column on that row. So as you can see, I've got the purple TD tags here, which go with this first cell. And I've got the green TD tags here, which go for the second cell. And then I got the red TD tags here, like burgundy or maroon or whatever. We'll just call them red, which go for the third cell in this. And notice how they're still inside of the table row. So they're all in the same row, and they're inside of the table tags, so they're all in the table. So let's put that into practice. Like I said, I'm going to make a 3x3 table. Well, we already know it's going to have 3 rows. So let's do 3 table rows. And then in each of these rows, we're going to have 3 sets of data. So I'll separate it out a little. No, I won't. Let's do this. I'll separate this one out. I'll hit the tab button, or I'll just hit spacebar twice, and we'll do table data, table data. That way, we can just copy paste it in here, because I'm lazy. So now we've got 3 sets of table data in each table row. We got 3 table rows. Remember how the table data is kind of like the column in our row? 3 table datas in each table row, 3 table rows. That's our 3x3 table. Boom. So now let's actually fill this up with data. Let's see here. Somebody wants me to play some competitive. I'm trying to think of a good category here. Of course, I'm going to spend way too much time fussing over it. Let's say system, manufacturer, and bits. So we can go PlayStation, Sony, and I believe this was the original PlayStation. I don't think was 64-bit. Might have been. Might have been 64-bit. Let's say it was 64-bit. And we'll say Super Nintendo, made by Nintendo, was 16-bit. And there's our table. As you can see up here, I've got the categories, and then I've got the actual entries in the subsequent rows, just like you would with like a normal table. So I'll hit save, I'll hit reload, and at the bottom here, I've got system, manufacturer, and bits. PlayStation, Sony 64, Super Nintendo by Nintendo 16. So far, makes sense. Kind of hard to read though. So what we can do in the meantime is we can throw in here, let's see here, table border equals 1px, closing. So that's just like a little formatting thing right there. Table border equals 1px. What we've done here is well, you'll see, we've given our table a border. Wow, look at that. Look at the table border. And we can change the size on that. We can say 5px and make this just ridiculously hard to read. Well, not even. It gives a nice border around our table. Let's do something absolutely absurd. 100px. Look at that border. Amazing border. This is a prime example of even though you got it, you don't necessarily use it like that. Even though we can do 100 pixels, not the best idea. Although it looks like it's a pyramid almost, with like the top cut off. So we'll go back to 1 pixel. Save, we'll tab, reload. Back to normal. Back to a nice looking table. And it looks much more organized. So yeah, that's how tables are done. Pretty simple, right? I mean, like it's a lot of typing, but in the end, it's actually pretty easy. It's just keeping track of everything in your head. That's all. So with our tables, yeah. With that in mind, we'll just do a little bit of the solidifying the information, kind of a quiz sort of a thing. Again, it doesn't matter, uh, if it's not 100% in your head. The whole point of this is to help get it into your head a little bit more. You don't have to answer it to me. You can either just type it out or think about the answer in your head or whatever, just so you know. Close the page that you have open so you can spend some time thinking about it. Don't, or minimize it. You don't necessarily have to close it. That way you can reference it again in case you forget something. But yeah, the first one would be just to add a picture. Hot link it from another site rather than pulling it from your computer. Take a moment to think about that, or type it or whatever. Once you've done that, go ahead and add another picture, but this time make it a link which points to another site. Use an absolute link. So this is a picture that is also a link. And as you can see here, this is stuff that I've already done. So you guys should be pretty familiar with it. This is not meant to be difficult by any stretch of the imagination. It's just meant to help reinforce this information, like I said. Give you guys another minute to do that. In fact, if you want to, you can do this to the same picture, rather than having two pictures on your website. Then, below your absolute link, add a text link, which, when clicked, will set up an email to send to you. So now we're getting into stuff that I didn't explicitly go over and type out on my HTML page, my HTML file. This one, you have to go back in time a little bit and think about what the keyword is. It's still not too hard, though. I'll give you guys a minute for that. Okay. Then finally, add a table, like so. First column, title of a movie you like. Second column, genre of movie. Third column, whatever you want, but I did gender of main character because I wasn't sure what else to think of. So have at least 3 entries in your table and use the border, use the 1 pixel border parameter. This one's going to take a minute, so I'll give you guys a little bit longer to do that or think about that or write it down or whatever. Okay, so check your page for correctness or whatever. If you're still typing, cool, don't worry about it. Let's go over the answers. This one's a bit longer despite the fact that we had fewer questions. But remember, the image tag's pretty simple. That's just image and source, like you do. Then it's the same thing except we're adding a link. And remember, there's only one space in the link. And there's a closing tag. No big deal. Then we've got a link again. It just says mail to under the reference, mail to, and then an email address. So remember, that's the keyword is mail to. But otherwise, it's structured exactly the same as a link. Nothing crazy there. Then the table one took a little while, but again, table itself is not that bad. It's just, it can be tricky to keep track of all the nesting. Otherwise, tables are easy. So today was pretty good for your page. We went over adding pictures, adding links, combining the two, different types of links, and tables, which, you probably won't use too much, but, you can potentially find a use for them. Your website should be a whole lot more interesting, though. And that does it for today. And with that, we'll go ahead and call it a lesson. We'll throw out the poll questions. Not throw out, but ask the poll questions so that you guys can answer them. And then we will leave it open for question and answer time. Otherwise, you guys are more than welcome to head on out. Have a great weekend, and we will see you on Monday.